Coach PJ here. Today I'm going to react to a video about the world's youngest self-made billionaire, Austin Russell. Interesting young man who took a technology and did something pretty forward-thinking that no one had ever done before. So let's take a look.
In theory, there's no reason why Luminar should exist. There's no reason why I or any member of the team should have been able to build what we built. You have some of the largest technology companies and automotive companies on the planet that have been trying to solve this problem for the better part of a decade and beyond. But the fundamental aspect of it is you have to have that strategic vision, that level of innovation, that blank slate approach, and just pure drive, hours, everything that you need to put into it like no tomorrow to be able to successfully deliver and execute. And I think that's the reason why we exist, and that's the reason why some of the greatest technology companies of our generation exist as well. Founded the company about 8, almost 9 years ago with the vision to be able to build a new type of lidar sensing system from the ground up to be able to help enable the autonomous vehicle industry. And really had to build something entirely from scratch to meet the very stringent performance requirements, safety requirements, and scalability requirements that were needed to be able to see this industry become a reality.
So let's stop there for a sec. So you see this young man, he talks about the strategic, the vision, that visionary element of it. Really, really important, because as any company starts, it starts with a dream. It starts with a vision. There's no goals, there's no plan, there's no details about how you're going to get there. It's truly about dreaming. And he articulates it very well in just this visionary, this strategic view. And then he also marries it up with, as I think he used the term, the drive, the just pure drive, that relentless energy to pursue making that dream a reality. And that's really where a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up, is they forget that they have to have that relentless drive. And he talks about 8 or 9 years. He's not that old. So for 8 or 9 years, that can seem like an eternity, especially folks who have shiny object syndrome, right? Where they want to go after something else and want to go after something else. But really you're talking about just continuing to pursue and pursue and pursue despite setbacks or failures or just, you have to reinvent and pivot and all that other stuff. He's going after it over and over and over again. And that's really a key to his success, is having the vision of what he wanted to create and then marrying that with the hard work and the drive and that relentless nature of pursuit. So let's see what he does.
When you have to build something truly from the ground up, everything is a challenge. It's and not a trivial one. You have to be able to ensure that you're successfully balancing all the different aspects of the business beyond the core technology development. And to be able to successfully execute on that is something where you're still having to build the plane as it's taking off, and because you have to really have that vision around where you can be. And of course, that if you don't get the technology to work, if you can't solve that risk and that problem, then you're done. It doesn't work. But at the end of the day, it's some motivational driver as well to make sure that you put in everything you got into making sure that it all happens and executes successfully. Building a hardware product that's extremely complex, and in the auto industry specifically, those are 3 very challenging things that you all have to combine. And at the time, I was like, 16, 17 years old, where I say, hey, imagine this pitch. I have this vision of creating a new type of laser system that will allow cars to be able to drive themselves, and we're going to beat out, like the Googles of this world and all the major automakers at their development efforts they're going to put into this. Can you invest $1 million? And it's to be totally frank, the overall venture capital community, even within Silicon Valley, was not exactly super receptive to that kind of thing. You know, it's easy to invest in, easy to understand software technologies. It's very challenging to really wrap your head around the implications of something as complex as this. Of course, equivalently, the rewards are exponentially greater if you successfully deliver on it.
So the young man talks about how complex it is. He talks about technology, he talks about complexity, he talks about, you know, really getting the automotive industry bought in. So he has a lot of moving parts here. But early on in what he's presented was about understanding all aspects of the business. He could have really focused on just the technology and not understanding how to make it commercially viable, how to make it realistic. So he had to figure out to make the technology itself work, but it had to work in the context of the automotive, of the element of how it's going to be sold, how it's going to be implemented, which is really, really important, and that it has to be reasonable for that industry. He also talked a fair amount about the pitch, and about approaching venture capitalists with this harebrained idea that he truly believed in. And there's a number of things that he didn't really lay into, but if you're doing a pitch, you got to be passionate. You got to have done your homework. You got to have some credibility with where you're headed and what you've done to prove where you're headed in the future, and that it's commercially viable, or that what you're doing is viable. So all of those aspects are really important, but that pitch, and in some ways it was preposterous, and he kind of mentioned that who pitches a technology that from a individual that many companies have tried to do in the past and have been working on. And you have to be bold, you have to be confident in what you're capable of, because you're the person that they're betting on, you're the person that they're investing in if they're going to put money behind you. So really understanding who is behind the idea, and that they're strategic in nature, they have the vision, they understand what they're trying to go after, it's commercially viable, and that they are willing to do the work to get there, and they're not willing to give up easily when they hit with barriers or obstacles. Let's watch some more.
So what you're seeing is basically the raw 3D data in the environment that's being imaged by our lidar sensor. So you can see everything going on here in real time. The different colors represent different distances that you can see out in this 120-degree field of view from the lidar sensor. This is the eyes of the autonomous car. This is how it can understand what's going on and navigate safely through the environment. And realistically, manual driving being completely obsolete, that's a 2040 problem. What we're solving for is being able to allow it to safely navigate starting on highway scenarios and then expanding the operating domain over time. In addition to being able to enable much safer driving capabilities and active safety systems on the vehicles that are here today.
One key point he makes there is he's not trying to produce a technology that can do everything day one. He's trying to produce a technology that has a very narrow window. He talked about highway driving and help with safety and the highway element. If you try to solve everything on day one, you end up solving nothing. And you end up not validating the commercial viability of your product. So that's where a minimal viable product comes in, which is what he's basically referring to, is let's get this operational on the highways, let's validate that it works there, and then we can move on to other things. So important message that he's sending there.
The physics behind it, how to be able to make all of this work, is really, really hard. And in our case, of course, it always checked out, always made sense, theoretically. And that's where, after integrating all these different things, after a year's worth of work, to be able to have the opportunity to see it, to have it come alive, to have it all work, and now to be powering some of the future of the largest companies in the world in this transportation industry, it is incredibly inspiring, to myself, to the team, to everyone and what drives us every day. The thing that I'm most proud of is being able to show that we've successfully seen this through, that end to end, and showing that you can have this almost like David versus Goliath scenario in so many different dimensions that can all come together, and it really is possible.
So in summary, he's giving you hope. He's giving you hope that it's not about being the guy with the deepest pockets or the biggest company or the biggest set of resources. It's about the drive, it's about the vision, it's about the validating what your concept is and making sure that you know that it's possible. So for those entrepreneurs out there, if you have an idea, if you have something that's just kind of, been bugging at you, work at it. Go look for how do you create a minimal viable product? How do you begin to prove out that your solution, your product is a possibility in the real world? Look for customers, validate that your customers are there. If you like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click the bell so you can be notified of future videos, and look forward to next time.